episode is sponsored by Raise Tech, end-to-end IT solutions for your business growth.
All right, so the rules are as follows. Everyone's participating, so not only the ones that are sitting here, right? Everyone's part of this exercise. We're gonna have debates on the topic that was proposed by Victor, right?
Yes.
The topic is remote versus on-site teams. Which ones are better? When? Maybe, pros and cons. That's what we'll discuss. So how it will work? So now we have two people, and two chairs are empty. Sort of two debating chairs are empty. Those chairs are for anyone at any point. If you have an argument for on-site or remote teams, right? You can just come and sit to one of the free chairs. Then one of you who are sitting here, so it's sort of a fishbowl mixed exercise, right? One of you that are sitting here, if someone takes that place, one of you need to hand over the microphone to the newcomer and leave for time being. Of course, you can come back at some point if you again have some argument, right? So this free space means that someone else wants to join in, but you need to free up space then. So one of the sort of sitting ones leaves, someone else comes. And you can even switch sides at some point if you wish. That's also possible. So if you have arguments for both sides, let's hear those out, right? So this is the mechanics. I will also time discussion so that both sides, remote and on-site, will get an equal amount of time to tell arguments. So there will be, if someone will just go in one direction, I will just time them out and ask for arguments from another side. So this is rules in a nutshell, right? You can discuss together in these groups to come up with arguments or counter arguments. That's also up to you to self-organize here and there. Any questions? We can start. So everyone, listen in and join in whatever point you wish. So remote teams versus on-site teams. Why ones or others are better. And I will start with the green side, Tadas and Pavel. Yes, to give arguments for remote teams.
So I can start. Okay, so remote as a buzzword became very, very popular during probably COVID times, where a lot of organizations had suddenly to switch full remote because you had all the regulations, you cannot travel, you cannot even offices were closed in many countries, same in Lithuania also. And it proved us that, for example, in Telia, we could be still productive, we could still survive. And we even done some surveys where a lot of developers said, yes, finally I can concentrate on work, less distractions, I can be more productive basically. So I just mean that remote doesn't mean that you need to let it go and let it loose, it still has some rules, some basic rules, but it can for sure be a good tool and let people be more productive because you skip all the time traveling to work and just log in and you are straight at work and if it suits you. So I think that is a strong argument for that.
Yes, thank you. Anything to counter?
Yeah, I believe it's definitely a strong argument because it does work, because we had to live it. So in order, not every company went bust, so there must be something there to learn from it, yeah? That said, what maybe those developers might be missing is all the opportunities you have when you're not only communicating about this one topic to a group, but when you're moving around, yeah? Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of let's say, implicit communication not happening in an off-site team, yeah? So that communication being you're sitting at your desk and you're looking or, displaced or you're happy or whatever, and nobody can see that. So I believe that off-site teams are also missing a lot of cultural communication in that level, and that's becoming a bigger and bigger problem over time.
Okay, I agree with that.
Yeah, to rebuttal that, I would say that if it's on-site or it's remote, I think there are same challenges. I think that the most important part is what is the culture of the organization and how the culture is implemented. As you said, probably there are different challenges when you are working remote and when you are working on-site, but I work also in the companies where there was 100% on-site way of working. And I see many situations where people were disconnected, where people were not connected with the company vision. Being at the office doesn't enforce on people to understand like a big picture, or didn't help to get I will call it this like a fluent information flow outside of your team of your project.
Making a statement based on the one example that you provide is like saying the same, that I've seen the remote organization that doesn't work. So all remote organization doesn't work. So we cannot make a conclusion that even if there are organizations who are working on site, they still struggle with the culture. Like most of the organizations struggle with the culture, also probably if we won't have their job as agile coaches at the first place. But as what you say, yeah, like the first thing is the communication that is totally different. The second thing is the learning. Like since the COVID started, what I observe on the market is that we do not have any junior developers on the market anymore. Like there are only people who have a lot of experience, and then there are people who like at the beginning of the let's say last year, there were people who were only fresh people, like totally starting their career, do not have any experience, or people who had like a last 2 years of experience because they started just before the COVID started. And even those people were on the same level. Like those people who started 2 years before were pretty on the same level that the people who just starting, and that was much lower level than, let's say, 3 years ago when I was looking at someone who has like a 3 years of experience or 2 years of experience. Like juniors never catch up to the level of the mid developers or something like this, because teaching new people, onboarding new people is much harder. I'm not saying it's impossible, because it is possible, but most of the companies are not prepared, were not prepared, still are not prepared for that. And the entire market is collapsing because of that. This is why the salaries of developers are going so high, because the demand is huge, but the supply of the developers are not increasing at the rate as it should.
Anyone want to come in with your arguments and change one of the participants? Don't be shy. Everyone has a chance. Yes? Green team? Anything to... Yes? Yes, someone now need to let go of your mic.
Yeah, so I really hated to choose the side in the first place, because I think it's a range between these two. There's no like only one or only another one. But I think that being able to work remotely is a skill, right? And we need to acknowledge the fact that we are not always good at that skill. I personally sucked working from home for quite a bit of time, still suck right now sometimes, right? So I get distracted and so on. So if you as an organization, you're choosing the approach, or should we go on site, should we go remote, first of all, you need to understand what's your setup and what are your capabilities. Also, what is your history? Have you started as an on-site company and then suddenly you go remote? It's a big cultural shift, and not all the organizations are ready for it. Because I just can give you an example. Tech company was created, very successful, very great, happened before COVID times. Everyone was in the office, innovating, creating products, multiple products, making money, having fun. Everything was awesome. Then COVID happened, everyone went back to their homes. And then after COVID, what do we do next? And then there was a clear message from the founders. We have built this company through face-to-face interactions, and we believe that we can move forward also by having them and continuing that as our culture. Therefore, they chose the hybrid. It's not like one or another.
Well, maybe from my side to combine those two arguments, because they were had both merit to it. The ones being, hey, look at the new starters, like the funnel coming up from people learning the trade, yeah, of being a developer, and the other one being that there's a push and movement into heightening the culture and means to do offsite communication and teams. Yeah. Now, that's actually an argument for on-site teams, if you think about it, because having an offsite teams means you have to put effort into everything. You have to put effort in order to mimic an offsite team communication and you're trying to save as much as possible into the on-site world, where at the moment I don't feel there are enough of the right tools out there to do so. Yeah, so we're still very early there. And then if you look at especially young people joining, although you could believe they're all digital natives in that way, coming out of the schools, they just had 13 years of on-site school system and on-site university after them. Yeah, they were trained by our school systems very much to interact with people in the same room. And there is a big gap between what you've learned there to then being sat at home 8 hours a day in front of a screen and say, now do the same with your offsite colleagues. So yeah, it's a problem.
I would like to refer what you, Victor, said about the. I'm understanding it as a shortage of the skills, of the talent, and I think that something what happened after the COVID is like that. Before COVID, there were absolutely almost no offers of with the possibility of working remotely. After COVID, that's like a market advantage of the company that is able to hire somebody and offer remote or hybrid mode. And I believe that that's the reason is that there is a demand of it, that people would like to have like a work-life balance. They would like to have more fluid way of working, and the remote work gives them that flexibility. Yeah?
So one thing regarding this spectrum, yeah, of course there is a spectrum. I actually, in my entire career, like since 2006, 7, etc., in each company except the first company I worked for, every other company I was working for provided this opportunity to work from time to time remotely. So in IT, that was, for me at least, was normal that from time to time we can work remotely. And that's totally different from building company that is remote company, where we decide, like, for example, we hire people from different countries. Why? Because even if we decide that we have like a hybrid setup, but we hire people from, let's say, one city or neighborhood of the city, so people are from at most 100 kilometers from our office, we can easily bring them for 2 or 3 days to the office without any extra cost. If we have people even from and maybe Lithuania is a smaller country, but let's say from Poland, from the other side of the country, a trip to the office for a couple of days is a huge endeavor. It's an endeavor where someone needs to pay for. And in most cases, this is the employee who is paying for that, not the employer. So that's the extra cost of the remote work that nobody is considering, or the hybrid work when we have like a fully distributed setup. If we have people from different countries, it's even more expensive. So that's possible, that's doable, but still that's the extra cost, and the salaries for remote work are pretty the same than for the cost of work at the salaries level are pretty the same when you're working remotely or in on-site.
From my point of view, it's just interesting as I'm observing this discussion go on, and COVID obviously has brought this opportunity. We took it by chance, we made the best out of it, and now we are in between these two worlds. So it's very unlikely that companies will go, in my mind, back fully on-site, or maybe the trend to go like all in with only online. But especially also as an agile coach, I personally see like the challenge to solve is how to live in this world of two things happening at the same time. If we are all working from home like it was in COVID, that created somehow a simplicity to it, because we had all the same challenges. We were all sitting in front of the computer, in front of the screen, some screaming kids behind, the neighbor's dog, whatever. And then before we knew that experience, that okay, very often we had this only on-site teams. They create the similar experience, the little talk between the coffee kitchen or between lunch. And this is, I think, a world that we are in, and that creates whole new challenges. So in my personal mind, there is not whether online or offline. In my mind, there is how to combine these new challenges that this way of working has brought actually to the table. And
So I would like to really add what colleague was saying before. So basically, that hybrid model is something that's happening a lot around, and you should never forget that basic rules were applicable for remote teams also. So there is a lot of models how to manage remote teams, right? It's for a reason, because if you skip the basics, like I've seen a lot of teams where we just have all the cameras turned off, you don't know where the involvement is like not very good, let's say like that. So you need to pay attention to those basics. And of course, you need to enable those teams to work remotely. If you're training to be on site, and to be honest, not all the offices has like those on-site capabilities, right? You have an open space where the team comes to the office, but we cannot sit together. You need to have a discussion in somehow separate room, right? Because there is a lot of like 100 people around you, like, so does it really bring that team together? Probably not. So there is on the both sides there is some downsides and uphills. So.
That's another cost of the hybrid work as well. Like offices and people are not used to work hybrid, especially when we do not have strong agreements like, okay, Monday, Tuesday, our team is fully on site. All of the other weekdays, whoever wants, they come, etc. Like I remember, like it was long before COVID, I participated in some training by Lisette Chatterland, and she told me something that changed my mind totally about the remote work. And we stopped hiring people remotely at the time. It was 2016 or something, 17. She told me that even if there is one people who is working remotely, the entire team setup should be or have to be remote team, like remote team setup. So if you don't want to change the company to remote company, do not hire remote people. And the same works with the hybrid. So if you want to work in the hybrid way, the best way is to agree that one particular day the entire team is on site, and every other day everyone works for what they want.
As Zygmunt just joined, let's.
I just also wanted to elaborate on the basics of a team and team structure, and the basics is self-motivated team. If the team is self-motivated and engaged, then working remotely, it will be more efficient. It will spend less time on unnecessary disruptions as an office space. But here the key is to be self-motivated and not to overload with tools. There should be tools that should be used properly, but not to stuck in the tools.
Basically, it comes back to the mindset, to the culture of company, how it's lived.
So remote work is, from one side, it requires stronger self-discipline of every participant. But behind this basic management concepts as motivation and involvement and wish to fulfill, these concepts apply also in remote work and should not be neglected. So a remote team will not work if somebody is just called as participant. Everybody should be, as there are still these rules of how team is formed, how it get used to forming, storming, norming, performing. All this goes also in remote teams. So, but then this remote team is much more efficient.
Maybe one thing, because it comes back, you said two things. You said something about mindset, and again, that an effort has to be made to make it work offsite, yeah? And thinking about it, it gives me the feeling that what you have to make an effort for, because mindset it's not an explicit communication. You don't go around and say, that's my mindset, yeah? Mindset is something you implicitly, I think, share between your colleagues while you're in a space, because the way you look at it. My mind, while looking at you, discussing with you, will, create a mindset, hey, see, where do we fit, where don't we fit, what have we in common, what don't we? And being only offsite means that this whole communication channel gets cut out, yeah? So you're looking very specific at when we're talking, and you have to create an effort in order to say, okay, Now, how can we mimic this communication channel which is away? So how are you going to do that?
Organization where I work, we have more than one location. So remote not always means that it's off-site. It may be from different buildings within organization, but if we talk about how the team work on that particular project, it's remote work. But and there is difference between remote and off-site.
And also, I believe that at least I have seen in no company yet that there is a full remote only. At least what the bare minimum, also from my opinion, is that you have at least moments where the whole team comes together, like be it like once a quarter, be it once a year at the bare minimum, or if you so say, the difference between offsite and remote, have also the connections between the different locations, wherever they are. Like make sure that people travel around to create these relationships, to build up on that, on trust, and all these little things that make it so valuable to work together. So in my world, it doesn't exist a full remote only working per se without at least the human component.
Police were holding
Yeah,
an
I
argument
would
for
add
quite
that
some time.
like with remote work, if we drill down to like a single individual, like I think most of us haven't sorted out life in general in all places in our life, right? There is at least one place that is a bit messed up, you know, sometimes a psychotherapist is helping, psychologists and so on. So I think that if we look from the global perspective, remote teams, remote organizations will probably contribute a little bit to like better well-being of people, because sometimes you need to sort out some life admin during the day, and you do that while you're working from home because there's a plumber coming or you need to go to a doctor and so on. But if you work in the office and then the dentist is like 1.5 hours away, like you get additional stress. Therefore, you kind of share that stress within your team. You're not focused. You're like during the refinement, you're distracted and so on. So I do believe that on a global perspective, remote work has some more benefits that could lead to better team performance, better organizations, and so on.
Okay. So one of the basic humankind needs, not for all of the people, but for majority of people, is to have the relations with others. Of course, we can satisfy these relations on the level of family, of our closest friends, etc. But most of our time we spend at work. Most of our time. It's more than half of our time when we are awake, we are spending at work. Working. Okay, working. So not using this opportunity or just leaving this opportunity to build these connections only for that time that we have after works, which we still need to split between family, kids, etc., other stuff like going to the doctor, etc. So we have only like just a little bit time to build this kind of connections with others. But if we could do this stuff at work, and it's much easier when you are going to the office, at least once upon a time, and to meet with other people in person, it is much easier than remotely. I'm not saying it's not possible to do this remotely. It's also very beneficial for people. It's not only that that working remote is perfect for that. Another example is like physical health, like sitting at home. Most of people, like there's plenty of people who have discipline to exercise, to taking a walk, to going out from their apartment, etc. But there is also plenty of people who do not have this kind of discipline, and when they are working remotely, they are sitting in their flat for the entire day, entire night, entire week, only once a week going for shopping, once a month to to barber, or even not, because they don't turn on the camera. So that's also harmful.
Isn't the purpose of organizational life your life, right?
It's not, but and it's not a goal for the organization. It's just a matter of what people can do to themselves when they are working remotely or through working remotely, like bad things, but also the good things. Of course, I mean, I agree that some points are very positive and beneficial for people, but there are also some disadvantages of working, personal disadvantages of working remotely that many people are not aware of.
1 minute for closing arguments from each team.
Okay, I started. So I mean that by meaning remote work, it doesn't mean that you cannot gather on site. Like I've seen a lot of cases where you can do or organize from period to period some kind of workshop where you gather all the team from different countries or whatever, work on working agreements, and that makes you effective. So you don't lose that point which you mentioned before. Like, so just you need to manage that. So same as working remotely, you need to pay attention to all the basics, and it will just increase the productivity, vice versa, right?
Yes. One last sentence from the red team.
If I may, so I've actually been working remote since 3 years and can never imagine going back. Yeah, but being here on this side is because I've got a lot of work also being on on-site teams, as we all have been, and I'm comparing a lot. Yeah, and I feel in the future we're all heading towards. We have to find a way to accommodate the needs of the individual. And some individuals like to be in a group, in a room, and some like to be at home. And maybe from time to time you like this to change. And what we're facing is a big technological also gap in between making this real. So I'm looking at what was better when it was offsite, and how can we also bring this to the offsite, to the digital world, right?
Okay. Yes, thank you, teams. Our time is up. Great arguments from both sides. I think we can boil it down that, it's again about the mentality, the type of the company, the needs, where it started. So both types of work definitely has their pros and cons. So thank you for bringing those up. And now we'll continue to our next discussion. Yes, so please stay if you want to discuss. Thank you. Yes.